No structure is completely safe from flooding. We all live in a flood zone. The structure could be located in a low to moderate risk flood zone, which is shown as B, C, or X zone on a flood map, or the structure could be at a higher risk of flooding in flood zones that start with the letter A, which represents accumulation of surface waters, or V, which stands for velocity and covers properties by a large body of water where the waves may crash onto the structure. Flood zones that start with the letter D are in areas that have not been mapped and are therefore identified as undetermined. You can find out what flood zone the structure is in by writing a flood zone determination, looking on an elevation certificate, or contacting your local community official or floodplain manager. Flooding is the most common and costly natural disaster in the United States. 1 in 4 insurance claims comes from outside high-risk flood areas. While the policyholder may be at a lower risk of flooding, low risk does not mean no risk. Once a community joins the National Flood Insurance Program, every property is placed in a flood zone. The use of the phrase 100-year floodplain has caused a great deal of confusion over the years. Many policyholders mistakenly believe that the 100-year flood is a flood that will only occur every 100 years. However, the phrase means something else entirely. The phrase means that a flood has a 1% chance of occurring in any given year. Structures that are located in the 100-year floodplain are required to have flood insurance as a condition of receiving a federally backed mortgage loan or home equity loan. Given that many mortgages have a repayment period of 30 years, agents may want to point out that the building in areas subject to a 100-year flood have a 26% chance of experiencing a flood during the life of the loan, versus a 10% chance of experiencing a fire. The flood zones that closely align with the term 100-year floodplain would be flood zones that begin with the letters A or V, often referred to as the special flood hazard areas. Just like the 100-year floodplain, the term 500-year floodplain is very misleading. A 500-year flood isn't something that can only happen once every 500 years. A 500-year flood is a flood that has a 1 in 500 chance or a 0.2% chance of occurring in any given year. In other words, if a 500-year flood event occurs, that does not mean that the policyholder is safe for another 499 years. The flood zones commonly referred to as a 500-year floodplain are the non-special flood hazard areas or flood zones that begin with the letters B, C, and X.